Would you agree that there are fewer illegal aliens entering the country now than there were entering during the Biden administration?
I mean, that is not something that's an area of my expertise. I've been spending too much
I
of my
think
time
most
defending
people
civil
who are
rights of
awake
my neighbors.
Can
Los
say
Angeles.
that there are fewer illegal aliens coming into the country right now. Do you think that illegal aliens should receive taxpayer-funded unemployment benefits?
Well, first off, I don't know what you mean by illegal aliens, but if you're talking about residents in the state of California, then the answer is
people
yes.
who entered our country illegally.
People come here for all kinds of reasons and
without
all kinds
documentation.
Of ways. This question: Do you
No,
think it's appropriate? Do you think it's appropriate for people to protest for equal rights?
No, you're not. You're not going to ask the questions here. That's not how this works.
You know, every now and then you watch a congressional hearing that completely changes direction because of just a few simple questions. That's exactly what happened here. I haven't seen this entire hearing yet, but from the clips I've come across, it looks like one congressman kept asking questions that should have had simple, straightforward answers. Instead, the witnesses seemed to do everything they could to avoid saying yes or no, whether that's because the facts weren't on their side or because they didn't want to admit something publicly. We're about to find out together. There are a couple of moments in this hearing that people online are calling absolutely unbelievable, especially when the discussion turns to illegal immigration, taxpayer-funded benefits, and whether America's border is actually more secure today than it was just a few years ago. If the clips are anything to go by, this gets pretty tense, and I want to see if it's really as shocking as people are making it out to be. But before we jump in, welcome back to the Political Brief, where we break down the biggest political stories in America from a conservative perspective. If you're tired of the mainstream media leaving out key details and you want straightforward analysis of what's really happening in Washington, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Give this video a thumbs up and let me know your thoughts in the comments. I read as many of them as I can, and I'm always interested to hear different perspectives. All right, enough talking. Let's watch this together and see whether these witnesses actually answer the questions or whether this turns into another case of politicians and activists trying to dodge the obvious.
I now recognize myself for 5 minutes for the purpose of asking a few questions. Mr. Krikorian, how many illegal aliens came into the country during the Biden administration?
Our estimate is at least 8 million, maybe as many as 10.
As many as 10. How many came into the country last year in 2025?
We don't know yet, but it wasn't anything close to that.
Not very many, so a substantial decrease in...
Dramatic 90+% decrease at the border.
Got it. Mr. Newman, is it a good thing that President Trump secured the border?
I think that Stephen Miller has squandered what used to be a signature issue for
I'm asking if is it a good thing that our border is secure?
I think our border has been secure for quite some time.
Our border was secure during the Biden administration?
Yes, sir.
That is your testimony?
That's my belief, yeah. It's my opinion.
How many illegal aliens came into the country during the Biden administration?
Whatever it wasn't the number that Mark Krikorian just cited.
You don't think it was 10 million?
That came out of whole cloth.
It could have been quite a bit higher. So would you agree that there are fewer illegal aliens entering the country now than there were entering during the Biden administration?
That isn't an area of my expertise, so I wouldn't agree or disagree with that.
You spend a lot of time in the immigration space. You can't tell me whether there are fewer illegal aliens coming into the country now than there were during the Biden administration?
I mean, that is not something that's an area of my expertise. I've been spending too much of my time defending civil rights of my neighbors.
Can say that there are fewer illegal aliens coming into the country right now. It's astounding that you won't at least admit that. Should illegal aliens receive taxpayer-funded unemployment benefits?
It's not an area of my expertise either. My concern primarily is
your
with the people that I work with.
Promoted a petition telling Governor Newsom to sign
Chairman,
AB 2847. This is your organization, the
Mr.
National
Chairman.
Day Laborers Organizing Network. AB 2847 will provide unemployment benefits to workers who are ineligible to receive unemployment insurance solely due to their immigration status.
Mr. Chairman, if I could answer your first question.
I'm asking you, do you think that illegal aliens should receive taxpayer-funded unemployment benefits?
Well, first off, I don't know what you mean by illegal aliens, but if you're talking about residents in the state of California, then the answer is yes.
People who entered our country illegally.
People come here for all kinds of reasons and all
without
kinds of ways.
documentation.
Residents in California.
This is a really simple question. Should illegal aliens receive taxpayer-funded unemployment benefits?
I think people in the state of California should receive benefits.
So illegal
according to law.
aliens should receive taxpayer-funded unemployment benefits.
Again, that's your word, and
That-
what I'm
and
trying
that
to get
is-
you to
and
do,
that's the
Congressman,
view of your
what I'm trying to get you to
organization.
do is to
When you
stop
get-
throwing
You're
around
trying to get
dehumanizing
1,000
rhetoric
signatures.
like this.
You only got 503. I think it's worth pointing out because that's a crazy idea. Let me ask you another question. Your organization shut down the Manhattan Bridge during rush hour a couple years ago to demand that New York State set up a $500 million fund to give unemployment benefits to illegal aliens. Do you think that was a good thing to do?
I don't know that my organization shut down anything, Congressman. I know that there was
March
peaceful
in
protest.
NYC shuts down Manhattan Bridge to call for $500 million unemployment fund. The march was led by members of the FEW coalition, including the National Day Laborers Organizing Network. That is your organization, is it not?
That is. You're holding up a sheet of paper. I don't know where that's from.
This is
Peaceful
from your
protesters-
website. This is from the National
peace-
Day
peaceful-
Laborers Organizing Network
protesters-
website.
Peaceful protesters do things when there's large crowds of people.
Does that
I think you would
include
agree,
shutting
Congressman?
down one of the busiest bridges in the nation in order to push for a $500 million fund to give taxpayer-funded unemployment benefits to illegal aliens?
I think we should give.
You think that's a good thing for the country?
I think we should allocate resources accordingly to people who are going to become citizens of this country
What if
eventually.
there were emergency vehicles
as
trying to
Mark
cross
Krikorian
that
acknowledges, as Mark
You realize
Krikorian
that there are people
acknowledges,
commuting
is
to
inevitable.
work, and the people commuting to work were the ones who were paying the taxes to fund these benefits that you want to give to illegal aliens, right?
Congressman, what is your beef with immigrants?
I don't have any beef with immigrants. I'm asking you if you think it's appropriate to shut down one of the busiest bridges in America to give taxpayer-funded unemployment benefits to illegal aliens.
Let me ask you this question. Do you
No,
think it's
you're-
appropriate?
this
Do you think
is-
it's appropriate for
you don't
people
ask
to
questions in
protest
these
for equal
hearings.
rights?
Do you think that illegal aliens should receive
Were you
direct
against
cash
Congressman?
payments
Were you against
from
Congressman?
taxpayers?
Were you against Congressman
Should
Lewis's
illegal
effort?
No, you're not going to ask the questions here. That's not how this works.
I'm answering your question with a question.
I've got another question for you. We're moving on. Should illegal aliens receive direct cash payments from taxpayers?
I believe future citizens, Americans in waiting, should receive
So they
equal
should.
rights, and they should receive
It
benefits
makes
so we
sense
can
because your
integrate them
organization
into our
sent
society.
a letter to Governor Cuomo advocating for immediate cash relief, cash payments to illegal aliens. I think that is way out of line,
I think the
out of
alternative is
step
to
with,
create a
with the rest of
permanent
the country.
underclass that allows people
and with
like
that said,
you
we're already
to
30
exploit.
seconds over, so we're out of time here.
But Congressman, you didn't even
And
give me
my
a chance
time
to
is
answer.
up. The Biden administration flooded our country with millions of illegal aliens, unvetted from all over the globe. And the impact has been to reduce working class wages, to strain our social system, our education system, our healthcare system, and to culturally transform the United States. At the same time, it's devalued the meaning of American citizenship to the detriment of the American people. The American people were left picking up the pieces, which is precisely why they elected President Donald Trump in the last election cycle to both secure the border and to deport illegal aliens. And he's done exactly that. He secured the border in record time whenever nobody in the American political class thought that it was possible. And he's begun the largest deportation campaign in American history. And yet, despite the political pressure that has caused him to do that, the left has pursued frivolous and coordinated litigation that seeks to subvert the will of the American people and negate our immigration laws and effectively reopen our border. The intent, it seems, of this litigation is to make immigration law ineffective and unenforceable. To this end, we have a vast network of radically left-wing NGOs providing legal services and other support to illegal aliens. We've seen coordinated campaigns against ICE personnel and facilities across the country. And even now, Democrats are holding up funding for ICE and Border Patrol, causing a partial government shutdown, while at the same time adamantly opposing the Save America Act, which would provide common-sense voter ID laws and citizenship requirements to vote in American elections. I think that the key question that many Americans ask themselves is, why is that? Why would Democrats oppose borders and oppose citizenship requirements to vote in our elections. And I think that the answer is, of course, because they believe that they gain politically from open borders, both from the impact of illegal aliens impacting congressional apportionment. Illegal aliens tend to congregate in sanctuary states and sanctuary cities, which tend to be blue, which gives Democrats greater congressional representation at the expense of Republicans, while at the same time, Democrats are making the bet that illegal aliens who do vote in our elections will vote Democrat. That's something that Democrats have talked about for quite some time now, and I think that that is the motivation behind pushes for amnesty in many cases. At the same time, Democrats are doing everything they can to keep as many of these illegal aliens, people who came into our country illegally, here as possible, and we don't need to look any further than the Temporary Protected Status, or TPS system. Temporary Protective Status, which was originally intended to be just that. It was intended to be temporary, a temporary reprieve from deportation due to specific circumstances. Yet the Biden administration abused it and has utilized TPS as a form of backdoor amnesty for over 1 million people who entered our country illegally. The numbers speak for themselves. At the start of the Biden administration, there were just about 410,000 TPS beneficiaries from 10 countries. In 4 years, that number increased by over 1 million to 1.4 million thanks to new TPS designations and redesignations for multiple countries. That includes Burma in 2021, Ukraine in 2022, Afghanistan in 2022, Cameroon in 2022, Ethiopia in 2022, Venezuela in 2021 and 2023, Haiti in 2024, and Lebanon in 2024. About half of all current TPS beneficiaries weren't even residing in the United States until after Joe Biden took office. In other words, TPS was a vehicle for providing backdoor amnesty for the very people that the American people saw pouring into our border for 4 years and voted President Trump into office to deport. Moreover, the vast majority of the people covered under TPS did enter the U.S. illegally, and I think that's really important. That includes an estimated 95% of all Venezuelan TPS holders and 91% of all estimated Haitian TPS holders. This and many others are precisely the abuses of our immigration system that Republicans were elected to stop, and it's going to be the focus of our hearing today. So I look forward to hearing from the witnesses today about how this institutional abuse occurred and continues to occur, and what needs to be done to restore an immigration system that works for the benefit of the American people. And with that, I yield to the ranking member, Simon, for her opening statement.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you to the witnesses for traveling here, and thank you to members of the public for being a part of this hearing today. So I find it rather ironic that we're holding a hearing today that ignores the systemic abuse of constitutional rights by our current administration.
Right off the bat, the chairman asks what should have been one of the easiest questions imaginable. Are fewer illegal immigrants entering the country today than they were during the Biden administration? Think about that for a second. This isn't some philosophical debate. This isn't asking someone to predict the future. It's asking whether border crossings have decreased compared to what happened over the last 4 years. Instead of simply saying yes or no, the witness immediately says that's not his area of expertise. Really? You spend your career working in immigration issues, advocating for immigration policies, organizing around immigration, but suddenly you can't answer one of the biggest immigration questions in America today? That immediately raises red flags. If the facts support your position, why avoid them? As conservatives, we've watched for years while millions of people crossed the southern border. Americans weren't imagining it. We watched the videos. We saw the overcrowded facilities. We saw overwhelmed Border Patrol agents. Even cities run by Democrats started declaring emergencies after migrants began arriving in large numbers. So pretending that no one knows whether crossings have fallen just doesn't pass the common sense test. Then things get even more interesting. The chairman asks another straightforward question. Should people who enter the United States illegally receive taxpayer-funded unemployment benefits? Again, simple question, simple answer, yes or no. Instead, we get another speech. I don't know what you mean by illegal aliens. Come on. Everyone in that room knew exactly what the question meant. People who entered the country unlawfully. Whether someone likes that terminology or prefers different wording isn't really the issue. The substance of the question was perfectly clear. But instead of answering, the witness redirects everything toward California residents and begins talking around the issue. Notice a pattern? Whenever the conversation reaches a politically uncomfortable fact, suddenly definitions become confusing. That's something we've seen repeatedly in Washington. If you can't defend the policy, redefine the language. Now, here's where I actually think the chairman did something important. He kept bringing the witness back to the original question, not letting him wander into unrelated talking points, not allowing a 5-minute speech that never answers anything. Just asking, do you support taxpayer-funded unemployment benefits for people who entered the country illegally? Eventually, the witness essentially admits yes. He says people living in California should receive those benefits. That's a remarkable position because someone has to pay for those programs. The money doesn't magically appear. It comes from taxpayers, many of whom are already struggling with inflation, housing costs, groceries, insurance, and everything else. That's why this debate matters. It's not about hating immigrants. It's about asking where government responsibilities begin and end. One moment that really stood out to me came when the chairman referenced efforts to pressure California into expanding unemployment benefits regardless of immigration status. The witness didn't exactly deny supporting those efforts. Instead, he tried reframing the discussion. Again, that's become a recurring theme throughout this hearing. Then we moved to the discussion about shutting down the Manhattan Bridge. Now, this is where I think average Americans become frustrated regardless of political affiliation. Peaceful protest is protected, absolutely. But deliberately shutting down one of the busiest bridges in America during rush hour affects thousands of people who have nothing to do with the dispute. People trying to get to work, parents trying to pick up children, emergency responders potentially trying to reach someone in crisis. The chairman asks whether that was appropriate. Instead of directly answering, the witness shifts toward discussing protest rights generally. Again, no clear answer. And then something happens that we've seen countless times in political hearings. The witness responds to criticism by asking the congressman, "What is your beef with immigrants?" Personally, I don't think that's a fair characterization. There's a huge difference between opposing illegal immigration and opposing immigration itself. America has always been a nation of immigrants. Legal immigrants have contributed enormously to this country. Many conservatives proudly celebrate legal immigration. The issue has never been whether people from around the world should have opportunities to become Americans. The issue is whether immigration laws should actually mean something. If laws exist but aren't enforced, eventually they stop functioning as laws altogether. Then comes another revealing exchange. The chairman asks whether illegal immigrants should receive direct taxpayer cash payments. Again, another opportunity for a clear answer. Eventually, the witness says future Americans should receive benefits so they can integrate into society. That's a significant policy position. People watching at home can decide whether they agree or disagree. But at least now everyone knows where he stands. Now let's talk about the broader discussion that followed, because this is where the chairman laid out the Republican argument. He argues that the previous administration allowed millions of illegal crossings, creating pressure on schools, hospitals, housing, social services, and local governments. He credits President Trump with dramatically reducing illegal crossings after returning to office and argues that voters specifically elected him to restore border enforcement. Whether someone agrees with every statistic presented or not, it's undeniable that border security became one of the defining issues of recent elections. Millions of Americans listed immigration as one of their top concerns. That's reality. The chairman also criticized lawsuits aimed at slowing immigration enforcement and accused activist organizations of using litigation to prevent immigration laws from being enforced. Supporters argue these lawsuits protect constitutional rights. Critics argue they intentionally delay enforcement and weaken immigration policy. Reasonable people can debate where that balance should be. He also spent considerable time discussing temporary protected status, arguing that what was originally designed as a temporary humanitarian program expanded significantly over the last several years. His position is that temporary protections gradually became something much closer to long-term legal status for large numbers of people. Supporters of TPS argue it's a humanitarian necessity for people whose home countries are facing war, natural disasters, or political instability. Opponents argue that programs labeled temporary should remain temporary and shouldn't become a substitute for permanent immigration reform. That's an important policy debate, and it's one Congress continues to wrestle with. What really stood out to me throughout this hearing wasn't simply the disagreement. Disagreement is normal. It's Washington. People are supposed to disagree. What stood out was how difficult it seemed for some witnesses to answer direct questions. When Americans ask straightforward questions about border security, illegal immigration, taxpayer-funded benefits, or immigration enforcement, they deserve straightforward answers. Whether those answers are popular or unpopular is another matter. But avoiding them doesn't build trust. As a conservative, I believe America absolutely benefits from legal immigration. We've welcomed generations of immigrants who followed the process, worked hard, built businesses, served in the military, and became proud American citizens. That's something worth celebrating. At the same time, every sovereign nation has both the right and the responsibility to control its borders. Without secure borders, immigration becomes impossible to manage fairly. Without enforcement, legal immigrants who follow the rules are effectively told their sacrifices didn't matter. And that's not fair either. I also believe taxpayers deserve transparency. If elected officials support extending government benefits to people who entered illegally, they should simply say so and defend that position honestly. If they oppose it, they should say that too. But endless word games don't help anyone understand what's actually being proposed. At the end of the day, hearings like this aren't just political theater. They reveal how differently America's two political movements view immigration, citizenship, law enforcement, and government responsibility. And those differences are going to continue shaping elections for years to come. Now I want to hear from you. Did you think the witnesses avoided answering simple questions? Do you believe taxpayer-funded benefits should ever be available to people who entered the country illegally? And how do you think America should balance compassion with enforcing immigration law? Drop your thoughts down in the comments below. If you enjoyed this breakdown, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to The Political Brief, and share this video with someone who wants to stay informed without all the media spin. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.